Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word you fling.
How's it going, everybody? It's Nick Atkin here, South China Morning Post, scmp.com/MMA for another edition of the Post-Fight Podcast. It is May 21st in Hong Kong. I am joined by Tom Taylor over in Canada, where it's actually May 20th still, and John Hyon in Korea. Guys, how's it going?
Going well. Going well.
Yeah, same as always, man.
Awesome. Yeah, let's dive right into it. We are going to talk today about UFC's next couple of shows. What the hell is going on? Let's start with UFC's May 30th show. What do we know, guys? Tom, let's start with you.
Don't know much, honestly. We know the main event is supposed to be Gilbert Burns and Tyron Woodley. Other than that, it seems like they're just kind of, this is all going to come together at the last minute, I think. I mean, we're getting very close now, and I don't think there's really any other fights that are official for the card other than that main event.
Yeah, so I've been seeing some bits and pieces on Twitter, and it seems like Dana White says it's going to be in Las Vegas. We are a go for the UFC Apex. Let me bring up this article here. It seems like there were offers or opportunities to go to Arizona, but they decided to go back home.
I think Arizona was the plan B if they couldn't make it happen in Vegas. But I think Vegas was always the number one plan for them.
Okay, so we're going to be at the Apex. Yeah, here it is. Dana White says May 30, Woodley Burns fight a go in Las Vegas. Obviously, no fans still. Do you think this is preferable to having it in that arena in Jacksonville, Florida? Smaller space, more intimate, right, guys? John, what do you think?
Yeah, financially and logistics is way better to do it in Vegas. I don't know. I'm still skeptical about this card, though. It's like I haven't really heard any other fights being rumored or even close to being announced. And right now, officially, they have 4 fights, or they're gonna have like a really a show with only 4 fights. Like, it's weird, man. It's like less than 2 weeks away. The Woodley the Burns fight is great, but what else do they have on the card? You know what I mean? Like, they need to at least put 2 more fights on there with notable names, and you haven't heard anything, and it's kind of scary, right? It's like, do we even invest our time and energy into this card? I don't know.
I saw a tweet.
Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I saw a tweet from Mike Heck of MMA Fighting, and he suggested that I think he said 6 matchups that he's heard of that are kind of in the works. So we'll see if they can make those happen and actually put a card together. But as you said, I mean, they're not working with much right now. It's hard to get excited for something they just don't really seem to have much going on right now.
That's true. But if you think about the numbers, it looks like ESPN, that show they had with Harris and Overeem, did pretty good, I thought, in the ratings. And I think people are going to watch these cards. It doesn't really matter who's on it. But I think they're more in trouble when it comes to UFC 250 on June 6th, is it? Because that card looks pretty thin. We've still only got one, championship fight, Amanda Nunes and Felicia Spencer. Let's have a little look at that. I'm going to bring it up. But yeah, guys, what do you think of the card? Is it a little thin to you as well?
Definitely thin. I mean, I think they showed during the UFC 249 broadcast, they showed the confirmed bouts for the card so far. And a lot of people took that as the main card, the confirmed pay-per-view main card. People were like immediately furious that this is the pay-per-view they were offering. I think they'll probably kind of change the order up and stuff and hopefully bolster the pay-per-view with some bigger fights. But yeah, as it stands now, that is, that's not exactly, that's nothing to write home about. That's for sure.
Is the Sun Sal Garbrandt matchup, is that official for 250?
It's not on here on UFC's Google page.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Tabology lineup, and they have that on this card. And if they do add it to 250, that's great. But it's not like another title fight. You know what I mean? Like, they need to put some major, some names on this card. It's just. And what there's how many weeks left? 3 weeks until the show. And it's like, why didn't they just put Tyron Woodley versus Burns on this card? That would have, made a huge impact. And I don't even know what to say about that fight night that's gonna happen in less than 2 weeks. It's just like, oh man, there must be something in the works. There must be something big. What I said last week was they should put a flyweight championship fight on 250. You know what I mean? Like um, Nick was saying that people are gonna watch these fights no matter what. So you might as well put something there to add to the promotion. Are they even doing a countdown for this? You know, is that even happening? I don't even know because they have to promote stuff, right? So there must be fights lined up.
Well, they've got this card on the 30th and then 250 on the 6th. I guess the dates are different for you guys, but and then I think they've got 2 more the following weekend. So they've got cards coming up. There's a big run of cards coming up, and the lineups for all of them are pretty thin right now. And you have to wonder, are they just gambling on the fact that people are going to watch regardless because there's not a whole lot of other sports on right now? Or are they just gambling on the fact that we're going to tune in either way? I'm not sure.
Well, who knows? But we have got a couple of little tidbits I've seen. Marvin Vettori seems to have hinted that Roberson fight is back on, although he didn't say which day, whether it's going to be May 30 or June 6. Makes sense though, right? After that got cancelled late notice for the last show.
I think that's June 13th. That's what I saw.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I also saw
Also,
Sean O'Malley saying he's going to be June 6th. So looks like he'll be on 250, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's chaotic times, man, for all the fighters. Like they could be rumored to be in a fight, and it doesn't really matter, does it? Because a lot of them are not even training to the best of their ability. So it's like they're ready to fight, they're ready to get a paycheck. If a fight comes up, they're gonna sign it, and it's just we don't know when. It's always like this is the date that they're projecting, or it could switch at the last minute. No, it's hard. That's the problem right now. It's hard to invest yourself in any of these cards coming up because you don't know what's going to change. The location can change. The matchups can change. This pay-per-view could be for free. You know what I mean? Maybe they're going to switch it up and they say, okay, we're just going to put this on ESPN because who's going to buy this thing? Do you think that the UFC is so confident that they're going to put up a card with Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer as the main event and sell it on pay-per-view? I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a bold move if they do, because as it stands, that's not a pay-per-view worthy card at all.
What are the prices over there, Tom? Because yeah, we get it in Asia on Fox Sports for free. Well, I guess you have to subscribe to Now TV in Hong Kong, but what is it, $60?
$65 or something like that. Yeah, and you got to get the ESPN Plus subscription too. So I mean,
70.
It's an expensive night. You can't have people over to split the pay-per-view with you now. You can't go to a bar these days, you know. So they're basically, you know, leaving all these fans to shell out the full $70 themselves. You know, it's a big ask for if it's not a special card, I would say.
Well, that's
especially with unemployment, you know,
Mm-hmm.
rising
asking
at
all
a
these
rapid rate.
jobless people, yeah.
And those are the people that usually are going to buy the pay-per-views, right? The working man, the blue-collar guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that needs some major surgery because I wouldn't even watch that if it was free. You know, if it wasn't my job, there's not much putting me there. You know, I need something.
A casual fan would look at cards coming up, and they would be very selective of what they would buy and what they would even watch for free, right? If you're a casual fan, you'd be like looking at 250 and say, you know, Cody Garbrandt, I know that guy, but he's lost probably a few from my memory, and Amanda Nunes, she's all right, but do I spend or take some time away from my life to go and watch this live? It's an easy decision for a casual fan. It's just like, no, I just wait until ESPN puts up the highlights on Sports Center, and I'm gonna go on with my life and hang out with my girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever. And
fight fans don't have girlfriends. Let's get real here.
Well, okay, what? Yeah, all right. You guys are the matchmakers. What other fights do you think realistically could be put together quickly to maybe save these shows?
I don't know. You want to start?
Yeah. I want to see Covington back in there. You know, I think if you put Covington on 250 against anybody, that makes that card massive. You know, it might not boost the pay-per-view numbers too much, but attention will, you know, go towards 250 a little bit more with Covington there promoting it. And in a fight against I guess you have to put him against somebody that's stateside. So Woodley's out the picture. I don't see, why don't you just put him against Thompson? Thompson's there. Wonder Boy's there, right? He seems like he's been training. He seems like he's ready to get back in there and fight. Why not put that fight together? I feel like that's a good matchup right there. And you know, Covington's not gonna get Usman next. He's not gonna get Masvidal next, and those are probably the biggest fights out there for him. So why not put him against Thompson? Someone that will he talk shit to him? That's what I'm interested in. Is like when he fights someone like Thompson, a guy that's super nice, will he actually go at Thompson? I want to see that too, and it will draw a lot of attention. I see that as one matchup. Another matchup is I seen on Twitter, Ponzinibbio. He's pushing for that Rafael dos Anjos matchup. I like that. Why don't you put that on here? That could boost it up. Both those fights, if you put them on there, welterweight fights, can boost this card. But you do have to put another title fight in there. And I said earlier, why don't you just put the flyweights on there? It's like a throwaway division in many ways for the UFC, it seems.
Yeah, Tom. I think we've lost Tom. I
was like, he was staring at us. Tom was staring at us for a while. I was like, man, is he? He's like one of those like wax statues.
Yeah.
Can you see me now? Am I still a wax man? Or?
Yeah, you're back. You're back. Did you hear what John was saying?
I heard some of it. Yeah, I heard about the flyweights and Colby Covington, and then I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you want to see Colby back? As John was saying, it seems like if you use Colby, you want him to have someone he can trash talk with, and Wonderboy may be just too nice, and I don't think he'd get into any trash talk with Colby.
Yeah, and I think Colby has very high standards in terms of the fights that he accepts these days. You know, he seems to be pretty hell-bent on Woodley or Usman, so I'm not sure you could convince him to take somebody like Wonderboy, who I believe is 1-2 in his last 3 fights. You know, that's not exactly a high-profile fight for a guy like Colby right now, so they'd have to pay him a lot of money, I think, and I'm not sure they're going to be willing to do that.
Yeah, Colby's had issues with that, hasn't he? He seems like he wants a certain amount of money, and they're just not willing to give it to him until eventually they found the right number for the Usman fight. John, do you think that one can happen realistically, or are you just making it, you know, is it fantasy booking in your head?
It's a little bit of both. You know, it's a matchup that I want to see, and Tom does make a good argument that Wonderboy doesn't have the best track record recently, but he's still ranked. He's still a guy that is exciting to watch, and stylistically, I want to see if Covington can hang with Wonderboy in the striking department, because it seems like Covington's coming along pretty well with his boxing and it's just his striking overall. It's just an exciting matchup I would like to see, and also logistics. It's like, if Covington comes back, he has to fight somebody in the States. Woodley is tied up with Burns. Usman's not going to fight Covington again. He's not going to give him that rematch. And money's really not a factor, because Covington always wants money. He always wants a lot of money, so it doesn't matter who he fights. It could be Joe Schmo from the 7-Eleven. He's going to want 6 figures most likely to fight them too. So, yeah, that, and like I said, the Ponzinibbio Rafael dos Anjos fight would be good to put on this card. It's just with Covington, it's like he needs to come back. We need him to come back and promote himself and talk trash and put some excitement in there. We can't just have Conor McGregor tweeting from his sofa to get us excited, right?
What do you think about Big Francis and John Jones on one of these cards? Do you think they can convince them to do it?
Going to ask you guys, is this for real? Do you think these guys really want to fight, or are they just trying to boost their own paychecks for their next fights in their respective divisions?
I think they probably want to fight. I mean, I don't see why not. Although Jones has been talking about moving up to heavyweight for a long time, and it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. I certainly understand the pessimism.
Why would you start with Ngannou? He would probably be thrown straight in for a title shot if he wanted at heavyweight. I think he's earned that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're right, Nick. It doesn't make any sense to go after Ngannou. He doesn't even hold the title, and it's like the biggest risk with not much reward for him. You know what I mean? Yes, if he does beat Ngannou, he beats Ngannou, but Ngannou has already lost to somebody. It's not like Ngannou has this undefeated aura around him. You know what I mean? It's not like Izzy. Izzy is undefeated. So if John goes and fights Izzy, he beats one of the best fighters in the world, one of the best strikers in the world, and he takes that zero, you know what I mean, from him. And that's very appealing. But with Ngannou, it's like, man, one little mistake. You saw what happened. One little mistake. And it's lights out for John Jones. I don't care how confident he is in his chin. Man, Ngannou, he has
Yeah.
hammers, man, like literal hammers attached to his wrists. And one little clip and it's over for you. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people that hate John Jones, they want this fight to happen. They want this fight. They're pushing it, man. They're probably retweeting everything John Jones tweets out there about Ngannou to see this fight. But yeah, realistically, I don't think this will happen, this fight. Maybe down the line, but no, I don't see it happening
I
anytime
think
soon.
timing wise, it sort of does make at least a shred of sense right now, being that, John Jones, he's always been dominant at light heavyweight. He's kind of, I don't want to say he's running out of contenders, because obviously the Reyes rematch is there. You got Hyon there. There's a lot of guys, but it seems like Jones is kind of losing interest in the light heavyweight division. And then you've got Francis at heavyweight, who's stuck in limbo while we wait for DC and Stipe to settle their score. So you got two big stars who are kind of looking for something fresh to do in the meantime, I think. So, at least in that sense, I think it makes some sense.
I feel like John can make more money with Francis as well. It seems a lot of people are into the idea, and he's already created a lot more buzz than I think perhaps he would if he was fighting Jan Blachowicz, Dominic Reyes, or Thiago Santos.
Mm-hmm. It would be a big fight. I mean, I think any fight either of those guys is involved in these days is going to generate a bunch of interest.
Indeed. What about Khabib Nurmagomedov? Obviously, some tragic news, I guess, with his dad being back in a medically induced coma in Moscow. Do you think this might actually mess up the Justin Gaethje fight? Because Khabib sent a very, very impassioned message on Instagram to his Dagestan followers, urging them to stay home during Eid, the Islamic holiday, because it sounds like Dagestan is in a real bad situation. Do you see Khabib actually getting out of there anytime soon? September isn't that far away.
I don't think so, man. I mean, the guy's dealing with some pretty heavy stuff right now. I think it would be wrong to rush him. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see him back anytime soon, personally.
John?
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna happen. Khabib, he's a big family man, and when you're a family man, that comes first. And his father is very sick, and I'm pretty sure there's other people close to him that could possibly be sick too. We just haven't heard about it, and he's gonna probably stay there and try to protect his family as best as he can. And it's not about fighting for him. Yeah. So if the UFC does decide to do anything, I'm pretty sure they're gonna move on, and Khabib's not gonna return anytime soon.
That
Yeah,
opens the
so
door
that's
for
good for
Justin
Justin
Gaethje,
Gaethje.
doesn't it, to fight Conor McGregor, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's right. It's better for Justin Gaethje, to be honest with you,
More
because
money.
yeah, more money, definitely more money, a lot more
I mean,
money,
Khabib's a big
and
draw as well, but McGregor is the biggest draw.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, McGregor is the biggest draw, and with Khabib, if he's out of the picture, then McGregor has no other option except for to fight Justin Gaethje. You know what I mean? He does have some fights at 170, but if he wants to fight at lightweight, you got to fight for something. And Gaethje's holding the interim title, so why not go for that? It's not like McGregor hasn't fought for an interim title before, right? So I'm pretty sure he's all up for that fight. But I think that's a dangerous fight for him. But it's not. But it's a winnable fight. You know what I mean? The odds are better going into that fight against Justin Gaethje than it would be to rematch Khabib. I think a rematch with Khabib is going to be a disaster for McGregor.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Tom, got to think that Conor has a better chance against Gaethje standing up than Tony did. I mean, Eddie Alvarez said before the Ferguson-Gaethje fight that he think Conor could knock out Gaethje. Obviously, that was before Gaethje put on that tremendous performance in Jacksonville. But yeah, how would you see it going?
It's a tough one. I mean, Gaethje's a beast right now. You know, he seems like he's really hitting his stride. He's kind of tightened up some of the areas of his game where he was perhaps not so good. He's a lot more defensively sound now. But I mean, Conor's a sharpshooter. You know, if you make any mistakes, Conor's going to hit you, and he's the kind of guy that can really make you pay when he hits you. The same can be said for Gaethje though too. You know, Conor makes mistakes standing up sometimes too. Khabib dropped him. You know, if Gaethje hits him with a shot like that, then we could absolutely see Conor going down too. So that's a great matchup, man. And if it happens, I think there's a major upside for the UFC as well. You know, imagine Conor wins that fight and then he's the interim champion right around the time Khabib's perhaps ready to come back. I mean, that's a huge fight.
What do you guys think?
Go ahead,
do you
John.
think that Gaethje or McGregor has the best chin at 155 from their previous performances? Watching those,
Gaethje or McGregor?
Yeah,
I would say that's a tough one because Gaethje has been knocked out. McGregor hasn't been knocked out at 155. You know. But I think Gaethje's taken a lot more punishment and survived a lot more punishment than McGregor has. That's a tough one. I'm not sure. Nick?
yeah, I think that's the big question going into that fight. I don't feel like it's the power that they both hold. It's whose chin is gonna hold up because they're gonna get into a firefight. And man, Gaethje has been knocked down, and rocked a lot more than McGregor in the lightweight division. And just his run in the UFC, if you watched it, he's been rocked by who? Michael Johnson, Tony Ferguson just of late. That was very close. A lot of people say, what if that happened in the beginning of the round? What would have happened in that round? That could have been a totally different fight right there. Gaethje might have went back to his old ways, and then Ferguson could have took over that fight. Who knows? But I'm just saying hypotheticals. But yeah, with the chin, that's the one that I'm looking at most. It's like, man, who has the better chin? And it looks like McGregor might have a better chin at 155.
Gaethje has been rocked in almost every one of his UFC fights, barring the James Vick fight and the Cowboy fight, which were obviously very quick. I mean, yeah, like you said, Michael Johnson rocked him. Dustin Poirier and Eddie Alvarez both finished him. I mean, the precedent is there. If he gets hit enough, he can go down. And McGregor's the kind of guy that could certainly hit him hard and hit him often.
Yeah, I think it just depends. How disciplined is Gaethje going to be? If he does make a mistake like he did against Ferguson right at the end of the second round, Conor will capitalize. And I think Conor will be better placed to capitalize on any mistake. It looked like, Ferguson looked a little bit lost in that fight. I think Conor would be far more prepared for a stand-up fight. I mean, Eddie Bravo was saying he thinks the time is right for Ferguson against McGregor, and then Gaethje could be on the same card. That would be bonkers, wouldn't it? Do you see that fight being a good one for Conor and Tony? Tom, we'll start with you.
I don't think Conor would accept that fight in a million years right now. Not after Tony was just, really beaten down like that. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of hype behind him right now. I don't think he's the kind of, really credible opponent that Conor's looking for at this point. It's not to take anything away from Tony, who's still a fantastic fighter, and I'm sure he'll be back. But yeah, at this stage, I don't think that's the kind of fight Conor's going to be looking for.
Johnny boy,
Yeah,
what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It's like Tony Ferguson has nothing that McGregor wants. McGregor has to want something out of that fight. And if Tony would have won that fight against Gaethje, then he holds the interim title and Khabib's out the picture. Yes, that fight makes sense. But for McGregor, Ferguson has nothing. He's just coming off a loss. He's not really a big money fight. For McGregor, fighting Tony's, a money fight all day, every day because it's McGregor. But for, vice versa, it's not going to work out. So I feel like, yeah, for McGregor, it's, two options. Either you have a belt or you're a massive pay-per-view draw. If you're not one of those, then he's not even close to being on the list of, fighters that he wants to face.
Well said.
Yeah, not much else going on in UFC world, is there, guys? But maybe while I've got you, we can chat a little bit about what's going on in the world of One Championship in Asia. When do we think one's going to be back? It looks like Singapore is not going to be open until July, I think I saw. So things like one's going to be spinning their wheels for a little bit longer, huh?
I have a theory. Okay.
What's
So
your
recently
theory?
they've been signing, right? They've been signing a lot of guys. If you noticed, they've been
Oh,
signing so many world-class kickboxers, strikers for Super Series, right? And then they've been signing a lot of Korean fighters too recently. I just noticed myself because I'm here and I follow a lot of the regional stuff. And Korea is about to have a show this weekend, right? So if that comes off without a hitch, I don't know. Maybe one championship will have a show in Korea because Korea is pretty open. You know, it's like I go outside every day and run around, and I've been going to restaurants now and eating, and it's, you know, there's not that big of a problem, and the outbreak is under control, right? Overall, so I could see them doing a show outside of Singapore instead of waiting for Singapore to open back up. I don't see why not. You know what I mean? If they're allowed to travel out of the country, why not send them to another country and put on a show and get it kickstarted, you know, because right now Asia's it's heartless, man. There's nothing here. There's there's these regional shows probably, like I said, going on this weekend, but other than that, it's like we need some big names. We need, some big figures out there, putting on shows, and that's not happening right now, and it's slowly sucking the air out of the region.
Well, I feel like the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together. I spoke to Gerald Ng, the CEO of World Lightweight Championship, yesterday, and he was telling me that they're looking again to be back on July 4th. Seems like a lot of these regions, they see openings now, and I think we might be back up in a couple of months at the latest. Tom, what's your gut tell you? Are we going to be waiting even longer for one championship and these Asian promotions?
Well, I sure hope not, but I think as John kind of touched on, it's going to depend on just the loosening of travel restrictions, because I mean, one championship is based in Singapore and they just don't have that many fighters in Singapore. They can't put together an all Singapore card, they're going to need to be able to fly people in until that's possible, unless they, go somewhere else like Korea, for example, and build a Korean card. I don't really think they're going to be able to do anything. But the restrictions are loosening up all over the world right now. It seems like there's some cause for optimism in a lot of places these days. So, maybe early summer, midsummer, we might start seeing some stuff from one championship again. That'd be great.
Well, yeah, give us a little bit of insight because you're over in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? Yeah, what's the lockdown like there? Because obviously one championship has a lot of star fighters in America. And, Demetrius Johnson's not too far away from you, is he, in Washington? If I got the geography right there. So, yeah, how does that play? How would they get over to Asia? Is there going to be a 2-week quarantine when they land? What's the situation like?
I'm really not sure. Even as all these countries are starting to open up their own economies, their own societies a little bit, that doesn't mean people are going to be able to just jump on a plane and fly 17 hours to Singapore or whatever. Just imagine being on a plane for 18 hours these days. What that would be like, the hysteria on the airplane as all of these people, are just so panicked about catching the virus and bringing the virus places. I think it's going to be a while before people are able to travel even slightly normally again. And that's going to be a problem for these fight promotions that need to fly people in. So I don't know. I think even, the States are kind of opening things up now, and the same in Canada. I think, even as these countries open up, that's not exactly, a green light for people to start traveling again.
Well, before this all happened, they had some really exciting title fights and matches announced. Would you see them just trying to squeeze them all into one super show to come back with a bang? Or if you're one, would the smarter option be to let it play out over, a few shows, over a few months? John, what's your take?
I say just go with the schedule that was originally announced, you know what I mean, and just push it to later dates, right? They had the Infinity cards coming up. You should just roll them out like you were going to. Don't try to compact all the title fights into one card. It doesn't really make sense to me. It's not like they're selling pay-per-views, right? So why would you do that? Just put on.
I feel like they're going to
card.
want to make a big statement though, because they're sitting idly by while the UFC is getting all this attention, all this press from mainstream outlets that UFC doesn't even normally get, because it's the only game in town at the moment. Tom, do you not think Chatri would want to just make a huge statement with a blockbuster card like they had on in Tokyo for Century in October?
Well, I think, strategically, the smart move might be what John suggested and just kind of resuming the schedule as it was planned before. But that's not really one championship style, I don't think. Chatri's shown that he's not afraid of putting on a huge event, even if it means kind of, using up all the champions in one night and then not having a lot of title fights available for a little while. I can kind of see them trying to make a big splash when they come back, and obviously that would be a treat for one championship fans too. So, I mean, I hope that happens. Imagine you get, a big card with, 3 or 4 title fights on it again, the Lee siblings, maybe Brandon Vera's title fight. That could be a really fun event.
Yeah, it would suck though if we can't go. I want to be there,
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Well, they also, like, going back to that point of returning, they could put on a massive one Super Series show with all the signings that they've had, and there's a lot of matchups that they can make, and maybe why not just do it like that? Just make a Super Series show, title fights from top to bottom, huge matchups, and then that's how you'll kick it in, and then after that you get the MMA stuff rolling, but as a norm, in with their normal pacing. But yeah, like you said, Chatri, he's a guy that wants to go big all the time, and I could see him doing a massive show in Manila or something. Or even in Singapore with all the champions. But like like you said earlier, travel restrictions might limit that from even happening. But even like 2 title fights would be massive on this side of the world. Yeah, it's just I'm just waiting to see what happens with the Apprentice. Like I'm very interested to see who's on that.
Yeah, I feel like something's in the works with them with all these signings they're making. I mean, it could just be to generate some buzz while there's no shows, but maybe they are building towards putting on a big one Super Series show, like you said. Would you be down to see that, Tom, or would you want them to come back with some MMA?
I think what I would expect at least is probably them to continue doing things the way they have been, peppering a little bit of everything onto a card. You might have some kickboxing and Muay Thai and then some big MMA bouts. I think that strategy has been working for them so far. You kind of appeal to all combat sports fans that way. So yeah, I expect them to do that, honestly. Just like a nice, well-rounded card when they come back.
All right. Well, I haven't got anything else I think we can talk about. You guys see anything else we should cover here? It's kind of a slow day, isn't it?
It's been a slow few months, man. It's these are interesting times. It'll be great when there are actual fights to talk about again every weekend.
Oh man, it's
Well,
just
let's
great.
get the predictions on the Woodley Burns matchup.
Sure.
Since that's the card that's coming up. What do you guys think about that fight?
My head says Woodley. I know Burns is hot right now, but I think Woodley doesn't get the respect he deserves. He keeps saying that Usman fight was the one-off and a bad night. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I think Woodley takes this. And then I think Leon Edwards deserves that fight still. I don't know what's going to happen with Leon. Tom, I know you spoke to Leon a little bit. What did you get out of him? Sorry to stop your predictions chat there, John. Give your prediction, yeah, then let us know what you think about Leon.
Well, as for the Woodley Burns prediction, I think all of the variables, shall we say, for that fighter in the Woodley quarter. I mean, he hasn't fought in, I think it's been over a year now. We know that he likes big fights. He wasn't totally happy about the Leon Edwards booking. I don't think he thought that it was a big enough fight for a guy like him. I don't think he would feel that Gilbert Burns is either. It's not like Gilbert Burns is a huge name yet. So is he excited about this fight? His training camp's been all over the place. He was supposed to go to London, then it was going to be the reserve in California. Who knows where his head's at and how his training's been. So I think the outcome of this fight is going to depend a lot on just how he's been preparing and how joggled his preparation has been by all of this craziness. As for Leon Edwards, I mean, he's got to be a Fight Island guy, right? Being a UK fighter. If Fight Island's even real, that is, I still have my doubts. But he told me that he'd be willing to fight on Fight Island, but he doesn't want to be on the first Fight Island card. He had some reservations about committing to the first one. which is understandable because you can just imagine that plan falling apart, the day before. But yeah, he seemed open to it in theory.
Do you feel like they might be trolling us with Fight Island? It's just going to be the apex in front of a green screen of a beach or something.
I just don't see how it's possible. Every island in the world is under the jurisdiction of some country. There's, I don't see how it's possible. I need to look into some maritime law and really dig deep and unpack this.
Well, they made T-shirts, so if they made T-shirts, it's real. Look at Zuffa Boxing.
Better hope Dana doesn't hear this.
What do you think, John, for Burns and Woodley?
Man, Woodley is from what I heard, I talked to Cal, and Woodley did some of his training camp before the London card at American Top Team in Atlanta, and when I was talking to Cal, he was telling me that Woodley is back to the same mentality that he had when he was fighting, let's say, Koscheck. Remember when he was fighting Koscheck? He had that chip on his shoulder coming into the UFC. That's what he was telling me, that Woodley had that same attitude, because the last few years he was going through a lot of drama with his family and just everything that he was getting involved in. It kind of sidetracked him, and that's why he had that performance against Usman. But at the end of the day, Usman is a monster, and he went in there and manhandled Woodley. So would that second fight go differently? I believe so. I don't know if he wins that fight, but it would be different than what the first fight was. With the Gilbert Burns fight, man, that's a tough fight for Gilbert Burns, because really Gilbert Burns is like that tweener. He's that in between the lightweight and welterweight. He's not really a lightweight, but he's not really a welterweight. So he's a tweener. But Woodley is a massive welterweight, right? What they said, he walked around at like 210 at the heaviest. I don't think Gilbert Burns is walking around at 210. I think he walks around at 190, probably at the biggest. So, and with the power advantage that Woodley has and the speed advantage, it's a tough sell, for Gilbert Burns. But one thing about Gilbert Burns, man, he'll fight anybody, and he's taking advantage of every opportunity that comes up, and good for him, because a lot of people, I think they underestimated him against Damian Maia, and look what he did to Damian Maia. So we can't underestimate Burns, but when you look at Woodley and where he's coming from, it's like, man, it's hard to choose against Woodley, especially with the talent that he has.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would get your guys' predictions on the rest of the card, but we don't know what the hell it is. So I guess we need it there, huh? I better let Tom go. It's creeping up on midnight, right, over there?
Yeah, late night for me, but it's all right, man. Always happy to talk to you guys.
Well, thanks for staying up, and I'm sure we will catch you again, hopefully at a more reasonable time for you. Sorry to keep...
Yeah, next time we can do it at midnight your time.
Yeah. Oh, why not? Okay, guys. Yeah, thanks again, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you again after a while. I'm gonna run this little outro for you guys. Cheers.
Pick a move in the ring. You can hit